Lionhearts? It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How you all doing today? I hope you said well. If you remember a few vlogs ago, I kind of teased that I was going to do something in the very near future that had to do with that Black Sheep vlog. If you remember when I vlogged Chris Farley and David Spade's movie Black Sheep, I told you when we got out to where Governor Tracy's mansion was that I was dumbfounded to realize that that was right next to an old filming location that I was planning on doing in the future. Today's the day. So Betty Von Drassic, today is your Patreon sunglass vlog. I hope you enjoy Elvis Presley and Barbara Stanwyck in Roustabout. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now, and as soon as Amy gets here, we'll head out of here. You're kind of a roving Roustabout, aren't you? It's a pretty good movie, Ja. This is one of my favorite Elvis movies, so hope everyone enjoys this one. We're going out to Westlake Village. Well, a little further than that even. Okay, whatever. So this was a Paramount Pictures movie, and like I said, starring Elvis, Barbara Stanwyck, Joan Freeman, Leif Erikson, but you also have some amazing cameos. You have a very young Raquel Welch in that first scene in Mother's Tea Room, that tea house that Elvis performs in. That's her sitting at the table with all the college boys. Jack Albertson is the one that introduces Elvis on stage, and then later on, the big carnival owner that tries to lure Elvis away is Pat Buttram from Green Acres, Mr. Haney. This is a good one. So to give you a little rundown of what the movie's about, Elvis is a, what do you expect? A guitar playing performer. Yep, he performs in this tea house as a performing act. People go in there and watch him, and he has no family. So Roustabout is not only the job he ends up getting at the carnival, but it's also really his life because he has no family at all and kind of lives as a desperado. So we see him in there performing that Poison Ivy song to the Ivy League boys, makes them mad, and then they follow him out to the parking lot where he gets into a fight with them. He ends up getting arrested, his motorcycle goes into the impound, and then the woman that works at the tea house as the server, the waitress, she comes and bails him out because she's in love with him, but we realize he tells her, hey, just because you bailed me out doesn't mean you own me. And he says, motorcycle's only made for one, and she says, it's got a back seat, and he just gets on the motorcycle and takes off. So our next scene is actually where we're gonna go out to vlog. It's while he's out riding the motorcycle through those country roads and sees Kathy for the first time. All right, Amy's here, and we are headed out to find the locations for Roustabout. Yeah. Now we're kind of lucky today because the two locations that we're doing are on the same road. They're just a few minutes apart from each other. Now what's interesting about this is that if you watch the movie, you notice that the Jordanaires and Colonel Parker both get a credit at the beginning of the movie. Colonel Parker was very instrumental in having this movie made. He came from a carnival background, and he was insistent that they do a carnival movie at some point, and that it highlight the carnival life and not show any of the bad parts. So there you go. All right, we've been driving for about 30 or 40 minutes, and we're going to be exiting up here at Westlake and taking it out to Potrero Canyon. That's where they filmed all this. Okay, we're getting to a little bit of nature out here. This is the path that Elvis is traveling on his motorcycle when you hear "Wheels on My Heels." What's interesting about it is that, this whole path, like, he kind of insisted on doing his own stunts for this movie. So a lot of the riding and everything when they're going down through here is him. Now this is where he comes upon the back of that yellow Jeep that Barbara Stanwyck is in, and this is where he sees Kathy, and he starts hitting on Kathy, and Kathy's dad has a hangover from the night before, so he's not in the mood for Elvis to be getting fresh with his daughter, and he starts trying to run Elvis off the road while they're traveling through here. And you actually see that lower brick section right there while he's out riding through here. Right there. So if you remember when I was out here for Black Sheep, I was actually right over here was the entrance that the Governor Tracy's mansion was in. So they're traveling down this road, and you see all this along the way. In fact, when he cuts through the tree I'm going to show you, he's coming down this way and cuts behind the car because Joe almost runs him off the road. So if you look straight ahead, there's a bend right here. That's how close from Governor Tracy's house right here that was when I told you I was out here, and I couldn't believe how close they were. So Elvis is riding down through here and ends up cutting through this tree we're gonna look at. So if you take a look at this scene where he's chasing him, that's that same tree, same angle. Amy's making some friends over here at our location. Now take a look at this giant tree right here. This is the famous tree that Elvis ends up cutting behind when he almost gets ran off the road. Now the camera angle is actually, they have the camera set up right over here before this fence that goes into this other farm was here. The camera angle is actually on the other side, pointing over here, and you can see this giant tree. He ends up, his motorcycle cuts behind here and comes back out onto the road, and you can see that fence for the farm across there in the shot. That is absolutely the tree. Now if you're wondering why I'm looking at this, there's a filming location actually on that road that all those cars are riding behind there. We're gonna show you that. So then the chase proceeds, and that famous scene where they take that turn, that big sharp turn, and Elvis finally gets foiled, gets shot off the side of the road. It's right up here where this 20 sign is. And the tree that you can see behind him after he crashes is still over there.
I don't have any apples. Hey, look at the white one, it's so pretty. My mom really wants a white horse someday.
You love horses, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so if you look behind me, you can see that big turn that Elvis takes, and it gets thrown right off right over here. So he takes that motorcycle right down here. He gets thrown through this. I mean, he actually, you know, he basically gets run off the road, flies through the fence, and ends up on the other side. Now, that's a huge deal because Elvis is a performer in the movie, and he's just crushed his motorcycle. He's got a Japanese motorcycle that they're saying, you know, it's going to be hard to get parts for. He's crushed his guitar that he uses to perform, and we end up seeing right over here where Amy is, we see Joe and Barbara Stanwyck and Joan, Kathy, all turn around in the Jeep and come right back up here. You can actually see they're right over there, and they end up parking the Jeep over here and hop over the fence and start talking to Elvis. And that's when they agree to pay to have his motorcycle fixed, but that it'll take some time. And Barbara Stanwyck, Maggie, tells him that she owns the carnival in town and says that she'll give him a ride over to the carnival, and that's where actually we're going to next, is to the carnival scene. But when they end up getting in the car, you know, Elvis has been getting fresh with Kathy through this whole car accident, this whole motorcycle chase thing that's been going on over here. And so when he gets off, he's still giving Joe attitude. He's still talking to him kind of disrespectfully, but he gets in the car and the Jeep turns around and ends up going up that road. Now that road is the same road that we end up seeing when Elvis decides to quit the carnival. We see him on the motorcycle flying back down through here on the motorcycle, coming around this curve again and taking off to eventually go have his meeting with Pat Buttram about getting into the new carnival. So it's a horse ranch, just like it was then, but that's the tree. When his motorcycle is wrecked over here in this section, you can see that tree a little bit smaller at its time, a little bit smaller, but that's directly in the background of him while he's over here talking about how he wants to get his stuff fixed and that they're gonna have to pay for it. Crazy to think Elvis would have taking that role right there. And he's dressed really cool in this movie. Right there, he's got this amazing black leather jacket and these cool like 3-buckle pants. So when I looked at the credits, Edith Head did the costumes for this. I love seeing stuff like this. Just knowing that tree is still there. I love this movie. I think that's a really classic scene, and to see that still there really makes my day. So that's the road that they take off in the Jeep on the way out to the carnival, and that's the same road that we see Elvis coming back from. So we're gonna go out and I'll show you where the carnival scene was actually filmed. I could not find it for months and months, and then came out here looking for Black Sheep locations and realized that it's on our way out here the way we came. And in this scene, it's kind of important to note that you see them put a bandage over Elvis's eye. Like I said on our drive out here, he had kind of insisted on wanting to do his own stunts for this movie, and that's something that you didn't do back then. You really don't do it now, because if someone gets hurt, then it stalls production on the movie. Well, during the fight scene where Elvis gets taken to jail afterward with those college boys, he accidentally had gotten hit and had needed stitches, was bloody up above his eye. And so during this scene, that's how they sell it off, by putting the bandage over his eye once he wrecks here. But that was really kind of a little backstory, is that the director was John Rich, and John Rich had done TV up until he directed this movie. He had done like the Andy Griffith Show and Dick Van Dyke and things like that, and this was his first step into making movies. It was a Hal Wallace production, and Hal Wallace was very strict about the way he wanted things done. He always made Elvis movies kind of shallow, which is what Elvis didn't like about him. But Hal had a real tight grip on how his productions were ran, and so they didn't want Hal to know that Elvis had been doing his own stunts, so they were hiding that, and that's why they put that bandage over his eye. But one of the problems they did have on the filming of this is that John Rich wasn't used to dealing with someone as carefree as Elvis, and he always had his friends on set. He always had the Memphis Mafia, and John didn't like this and finally said, "Hey, I want your friends off the set." And Elvis said, "Hey, when this quits being fun, I'll quit making the movies. So if my friends go, I go." And so they were able to stay. It was awesome meeting you guys, but Amy and I are gonna take off up the road. We might meet some of your family members up there. You ready to go, Amy?
Yeah. Oh, you're missing an eye.
Oh my gosh, poor horse. You're right.
Poor baby, I bet it's from the fence. I bet you got hurt from the fence.
Amy's noticing how sharp the fence edges are here, and that might have been what did it. All right, back the way we came. Let's go find this carnival. Well, Elvis says he doesn't want to join the circus, and they remind him that it's a carnival. So that goes back to hand in hand with what I told you about. Colonel Parker wanted to make sure that the carnival was shown a lot of respect in this movie. I'm just showing you all this because during that whole chase scene, or that whole scene that we see, you see a lot of this in the background. So right out here, there's an Arabian horse ranch out here, but those mountain ranges, you see them riding along a dirt path down here and then turn in. The carnival was actually way out there. So the purpose of this originally, the mountain range, the carnival would have been out there. The purpose of that was to get someone to come back and pick up Elvis's motorcycle to get it fixed, but they warn him, they're like, "Hey, that's a Japanese motorcycle, it's gonna be hard to get those parts." So they offer him a job being a roustabout at this carnival, and since he wants to hit on Kathy, he agrees to do it. But what ends up happening is he's of course causing all kinds of trouble while he's a roustabout working on this carnival, and he goes to hit on Kathy one night and starts singing a song and gathers a bunch of people. So of course, you know, Barbara Stanwyck's character realizes, oh, we're hurting for money, and this guy just got everyone to draw around him, so she decides to make him a featured attraction. But of course, like I said earlier, he's got a chip on his shoulder, he has no family or anything, and he doesn't want to help them. He just wants to hang around long enough to get his motorcycle fixed. He wants them to replace his guitar, and then he wants to get out of there after he has his way with Kathy. So he ends up basically trying to chase her through this whole movie, and falsely gets accused of stealing someone's wallet. But he does become a big draw for this carnival, and that all would have happened way out in there. And you'll notice there's some hills and things out there. They covered all those up with the way they shot it, they had a big banner going across, and they actually did hire a real carnival to come out and set up for this movie. They wanted everything to feel authentic, because this was a movie that had been like 3 or 4 years in the making. They were trying to start it in 1961 and ended up not getting to do it until 1964. And a year after that, Elvis would get a gigantic contract unlike anything any other actor in Hollywood had, so good on him. I think this was like his 16th or 17th movie under his contract, but he really wanted to work with Barbara Stanwyck, and I think he does a pretty good job in this movie. What?
What's a roustabout?
A roustabout in the movie, well, it has two meanings in the movie. It means the job on the carnival just means that they're like a handyman. They're just an all-purpose guy that whatever they need, but it has a double meaning because he has no family. He's basically like a drifter, so he's a roustabout, you know? A restless, reckless roustabout, Amy. One of my favorite parts in this movie is actually when they give him the guitar and he's sitting around playing the guitar after they replace it. And Kathy comes up and says, you know, what do you think of the guitar? He goes, it'll do. And she goes, oh, wow, really? Like one of those kind of responses. He goes, well, it was a replacement. It wasn't a gift, so. And then you can actually see that mountain range when they're first putting together the Ferris wheel. It's kind of going this way. When they're first putting it together, Elvis, well, his character's name is Charlie Rogers. He talks Kathy into taking a spin on the Ferris wheel, and they're not supposed to. So when we see them get on there, he's singing a song to her, and one of the first shots of the Ferris wheel going around shows that mountain range over there. One of those, I don't know, I love this kind of stuff. I love finding out where things like that were filmed. So all the interiors for this movie, they did the exteriors of the two places I've shown you, but the interiors were all done on over 3 stages at Paramount. That's where they recreated the interiors of the whole carnival. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing those 2 filming locations. Now, if you notice on the beginning credits, not only does Colonel Parker get a screen credit, but also the Jordanaires. Now, it's kind of funny to me because there's a, you know, you see the Jordanaires when Elvis is performing at the tea room or the tea house, but then again, you don't really see him throughout the rest of the movie, and then randomly, once they decide, you know, he's been a roustabout for a few days, once they decide for him to be a performer on stage, all of a sudden the Jordanaires are there again. Well, once he was in the recording studio working on the song Wheels on My Heels that's playing during that whole motorcycle scene, when he was recording that, apparently the engineer said, hey, you know, we don't want to have the Jordanaires on that song, and Elvis really wanted the Jordanaires on that song, and they go, well, where would they be? This is a motorcycle chasing scene. Where would they be in the scene? And he goes, the same place as the backup band. I mean, he was just pointing out kind of the absurdity in his own movies. I thought that was kind of funny. All right, my friends, we're going to call it a night. I want to thank Charles Reeder, Dallas Barnes, Puss in Boots, and Jeff McEwen for becoming my newest Patreons. And you know what's interesting? I told you the director of that movie was John Rich. He did make another film for Elvis. He did direct another one. And it was another Hal Wallace production. And Hal Wallace always did Elvis movies because he said Elvis movies were money in the bank. But he always made the whole premise shallow. And that's what Elvis didn't like. And John Rich only lasted 2 movies before he just decided to get out of movies altogether. Went back into TV. And what do you think he directed? Sanford & Son. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you all later. Goodbye.